Yearning to play a few rounds of Gwent. That ought to set me straight.
Oh, it's Commander's Horn episode 122. I'm sounding the horn and returning to a freshly sterilized studio with a new season of the show starting right now. I'd like to warmly welcome back both of my guests, Gwent Challenger Champion and Masters hopeful Damorquis, as well as one of the most watched Gwent streamers in the world, SirPumpkn. We're talking about Masters, MMR, usernames, maybe even Northern Realms on the ladder, and other invisible things on this podcast of Commander's Horn. I changed the intro to be a little bit shorter. We're live. Gentlemen, how you doing? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well.
Right on.
Yeah, returned from the not happened Masters. It was kind of an escape on the last train. The story will be told later, but yeah, I guess the most important thing, I'm all safe and sound and healthy.
Yeah, right on. Pumpkin as well. How are things? I mean, it's obviously quite a time to be alive right now. We're all in the midst of a global event that is touching us all. It's really hard to not know or experience about it. How's it been going for the, I mean, I know what it's like to stream. Just another day, right?
Yeah, it's just another day. Nothing, I mean, for me personally, it doesn't really do much. My family is kind of freaking out a little bit, but staying inside and not going outdoors is something I do very well. So, we've been preparing for this for many years.
It's exactly it. It's like we've been training our whole lives for this moment.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, just in general, as far as, I mean, we could just jump right into kind of what's going on right now, because Gwent Masters, Damo, I was supposed to see you last weekend, and Pumpkin, were you thinking about coming?
I was going to come. I'm glad that I didn't, I think. Just because of everything that has happened since then. But yeah, it would have been really fun to go again.
Okay. And Damorquis, you were in the city and you just said, I want to actually just hear this story, because was it dramatic as it sounded on Twitter? Because, I mean, you got to sum it up in a quick amount of words, but...
I tried to sum it up. I mean, basically, it started when it was the night before leaving for the flights. And then I was just about to test one more game with Colomon, because I flew over to Colomon's place like 10 days earlier to prep. So we prepped for 10 days straight, and then Colomon is like lying on the couch, like mumbling something, and I'm like turning to him, and he's like, "Gwent Masters is cancelled."
Oh, I know.
And I'm like, nice one.
Nice.
But yeah, it actually happened, and then we decided, okay, we might just fly over anyways, because the situation at that point was not really that serious, especially in Poland, where there were like no imminent threats.
It was
whatsoever.
like 0 to
and
2
then,
cases at that point, I think.
Yeah. So we flew over, and then we had a good time with people, but unfortunately within 3 days the situation escalated, and then we're like going out of we did an escape room with some people in Warsaw, but we were not aware of the fact that we would have to do another escape quickly after, and so we actually got the very last train out of Poland, because within the hour that we needed to figure out if the borders are going to be closed, actually the flights prices went 10 times up. And I was like, I'm not going to pay that much.
And now they're like going to go bankrupt now. So
yeah. So we went like on the train with 6 people, I think, and went all to Berlin, and then everyone kept traveling from there. But yeah, it was just very much last minute.
That's wild. Yeah, the biggest escape room of all, Warsaw. Basically for me, I was I had a lot of time, but it was like 6 hours before I was going to leave for my flight. And like my wife had all her plans in the weekend. She had a dog sitter coming over because she was going to go see some comedy event that I really wanted to go to as well. So it started off, I get a text from Repik, who's in the chat, by the way. Hello, Repik. He's like, "Where are you? Don't leave." And as soon as I say it out loud, Masters has been postponed. My wife didn't believe me, just like you said, good one, right? I mean, Colomon's, I guess, not known as a joker, but that would have been a good one. But it was true. It was really true. And then the comedy event, I'm like, well, at least I can stay and we can go see Mike Birbiglia together. And that was canceled too, the Buffalo show that we were going to go to in the U.S. So it's
Jeez.
it's just the way it is. And yeah, anyway, that's it's too bad. And Pumpkin, on your side, you see a lot of community, you see a lot of stuff go through the Gwent space in your chat room, and of course you're live for many hours a day. On the day of the postponement, on the day of the announcement, what was it like? Were you live at that point?
When it was postponed, no, but I was live later that day. I don't know. People were not very happy.
Yeah, because at that point it probably wasn't that
very much looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was before the NBA got canceled, which for me is like there's like sections of seriousness, and I think that the NBA cancellation was like the beginning of that next like level of like sports events getting canceled and stuff like that. So it's because it was before that, I thought, oh really? I mean, I didn't want to get stuck, so part of me, there was a relief of safety, but it's a crazy time to be alive. Crazy time to be alive. So really, I mean, that's I mean, everything kind of grinded to a halt. The one other thing I want to talk about is prepping for the Masters. What does it feel like when you just don't know when it's going to start again?
I mean, feels bad, man.
You're on pause, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
You're just on pause.
I know it was pretty, I know, frustrating, I guess, because you put so much work into it. For me, the biggest frustration was that I had, like, everyone probably has some plans for the year, and then you have, like, I'm going to do this then, and then I'm going to do that, and I had my year pretty much figured out, and then the postponement came, and I was like, oh my god, it's going to mess up my whole year, probably. And yeah, that was, like, the most frustrating thing about me. As far as the prep went, I mean, it was a really intense prep. I think for me, the hardest one so far. And at the end, when you realized that you had a really good lineup and you had a really good chance to win, and then it doesn't happen, it's really disappointing. But I'm confident that we can come up with something again, so it's not that bad. I was happy with the bracket, and but I was really surprised that they basically seeded the bracket without telling us about it, and they were like, "Hey guys, check out Twitter, the bracket is out." And I was like I'm literally prepping with Colomon. What if, like, we have like a few days left? What if the bracket says you against Colomon? And it's like, okay, I guess I'm leaving now. Like, it would have been really awkward.
It's a good question, but like, I guess what would be the real difference there if you found out a day before? Or I guess you wouldn't be able to practice, you wouldn't be able to train with them anymore. But at the same time, if you found out the day before that you're going to be facing Colomon, you would have really no. I mean, I guess, is it just better to know earlier or to know later?
I mean, I think for the spectators and stuff, it makes sense to know it a bit earlier. You can hype up the event. Maybe you can finally include some trash talk in the actual first videos and stuff. But obviously, if you prepare with someone you're going to face, it's really awkward. It's like, it's a situation you'd rather avoid.
So knowing ahead of time, don't you get to avoid that situation? Like, let's say you actually did get paired up against Colomon, you actually would have that. You wouldn't have like weeks to prepare. You could have prepared with somebody else, I suppose. Not your ideal situation, but you then would be sure that you didn't prepare against your opponent. I'm just seeing it from the other side, because I didn't know it was going to happen either.
That's true. It depends when they announce it, right? If they announce it like at the time when you're already preparing with someone, it's too early and too late.
Yeah, it was a real surprise. Guys, what do we hope happens in the future at this point? So most of these things are played in LANs, all of them have been played in LAN, you know, being present. That's been very much part of the integrity and the production value of Gwent Masters, of Gwent Challenger and Open and all that stuff. Now we are obviously in a situation where we don't know what's going to happen. Like we are currently in this, like right now, it's unfolding as we speak. So something may have to be done because, like you just said, Damo, we have schedules and stuff. I mean, I saw Molegion's tweet as well. This is something that he was planning around as well as a commentator on the Polish side, as a caster on the Polish side. So how do we feel? Like, would we be fine with an online tournament? It changes the integrity of the show, I guess, but it's obviously an understandable part. Like, Pumpkin, what do you think if Gwent Masters kind of became as online as anything else, any other online tournament that's being hosted these days? Do you think it would be weird or necessary, or would it be fine?
So I think as a one-off, potentially they have to do it if the situation doesn't get better over the next couple months. Ideally, they reschedule it for some kind of LAN tournament, but I don't know, 2-3 months from now, they might have to push it onto online. It definitely would be weird. You have to hold everybody. I guess you could do a delay.
Well, it's yeah. I mean, there's delay, but there's also the chance of, one of the best parts about playing in the LAN. One of the tournaments we had, the lights went off. We had a blackout in the studio, but the players, nothing happened for them. The game continued, and like I think even the stream went out in that particular broadcast, but they had like the backup generator, so the game just wouldn't be disturbed. They couldn't like there's no crashing, and they can even like set game states if like they absolutely needed to. I don't think we've ever had to, but you can rebuild it if you actually have to. I think so. That not having that kind of protection, who knows what could happen, right? You get disconnected. What happens? What's the official ruling? Do you have to be harsh? Now you have to now you could have controversy, because I've seen, you see these Gwent Open qualifiers, especially the first couple of them, like the very first couple of them, the controversy was juicy. Everybody had their own interpretation of the rules. And there was the Gwent tracker hold fiasco back in the day. So, I mean, having it online, I see some people in the chat also saying that it just can't be online. Like, it's the biggest event that we've been working towards for years. It shouldn't be. It can't be. It would be weird. But this whole thing is pretty weird, I think. What do you guys think?
I don't think Masters is going to happen online, but in the opens they could happen online, I think, because like it's just like all the quality of the stream, the cameras, like there is so much technical stuff behind it, and they would never start doing online tournaments with Grandmasters. So they might try it with an open, although like with this kind of game, like the game in this friend match state, they probably wouldn't do it. And let's see. I if they come up with something like a tournament client and a spectator mode in short notice, then maybe. But so far, I don't see how they would be doing it online.
In the spectator mode, the spectator mode has actually been available in the studio since the March Open of last year. So we've had 2 events in the studio with a spectator mode. So we can assume a year of work or a year of working around that mode. So I would like to think that that is something that could be coming out in the future. I would, how much, I don't want to be too critical. Like, I don't know what it's like, but it's been a year and the spectator mode was, it's functional. I know that it obviously mass releasing stuff, like this is stuff that I'm just not an expert. I'm just curious as to how much longer the spectator mode is going to take, because as somebody who likes to watch tournaments and cast tournaments, it all started in my free time. I would love to have that spectator mode personally. But yeah, at this point, I think we might just go ahead to the April schedule, and maybe the Open happens on time and it might happen online. I think that might just be how it goes. But and I think that's pretty much it. I mean, anybody else want to add anything about the kind of the pause we're in? No new information either. We didn't get news on the weekend.
I mean, the crazy thing about Masters getting postponed is also the situation with Katzpa, and because Hana-chan couldn't attend, and now, like, how does it change and stuff? Like, it's a really messed up situation for everyone. Of course, I am curious how that resolves.
It really shows the stages of seriousness again. Like, at first it was Hana-chan being from China, having the visa issues, having the traveling complications. I don't know exactly all the details. And then it obviously escalated to more of that. So, Casper, I mean, you have 2 sides of it. Hana-chan being told, all those tournaments, all that money you were kind of expecting to have a chance at, you just don't anymore. And then Casper being told that he now has a chance to have that. And now somehow they didn't do anything. Like, this is just the world happening around them. And now there may be an expectation for both of them to have a chance in fairness. But what is fair? I mean, it's going to be a tough decision. Pumpkin, like, what do you think about that? I totally forgot about this. This was weeks ago at this point. What do you think is fair in this case, if you want to comment on it?
I mean, the person who prepped for it should probably go. Also, with the travel visas, my guess is if he was having issues before, 2 months from now, or let's say 2 months from now, it probably won't be fixed. Those types of things. It might be the case where he can't fix it at all, and there is no workaround. But yeah, I would say the person who prepped for it. Other than that, you flip a coin. All right.
Oh.
I mean,
Yeah.
What else are you gonna do?
It's tough, right? Like, I mean, I think that you have to like whatever decision they make. I think they need to be like really firm on it because this is something you could make a case.
Either
I mean,
way,
you can make. I mean,
for sure.
honestly, like I read Twitter, people can make a case for any ridiculous thing they want, and these things actually have like leverage to them. I think that like if they make the case, it's like Hannah Chan's back in. That's the way it is. End of story. They have to be like they would have to be firm about that. And if they want to make it a play-in, I just don't know what's really the fairest thing. Seems to be that Hannah Chan would get back in. I think it's incredibly like hard for Casper to be kind of jerked in that like, hey, you have a chance. Just kidding. No, you don't have a chance. But
What if they play it against each other, best out of 5?
well, you could argue also that like being put into that position. Well, I mean, a real competitor would be like, yeah, sure, no problem, right? Damo, what if you were put in that position? What would you have done? You're muted, my friend.
I don't think you want to play one best of 5 for a place in Masters. It's like, like one best of 5 can go so many ways, and this will be like a real bamboozle thing.
Which would you rather, best out of 5 or coin flip?
Yeah, I mean
It's definitely.
to be honest, I know I don't think any of these should be the case. But I have more questions than answers on this point, so
yeah,
I have no idea what they will do. They need to solve the problem for sure, but yeah.
I mean, I'll use
What
Major
can you
League
do?
Baseball as an example. They have a something called the wild card, in which it's a 1-game plan for the World Series, a single game. Win or lose, that team gets the wild card and gets a chance to be in the playoffs. That has always seemed like the most unfair thing in especially baseball of all things, like the most random sport ever. So the idea that a best of 5 wouldn't be enough. We have people in the chat saying 5 best of 17s, I think might be the most fair thing. Gulo, what's up? But I mean, yeah, there's a lot of ways to look at it. It has to be addressed, or else we have 9 people in the Masters, and that's unprecedented. So I guess yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought it up because it's a real like these are real. We're talking about real shit right now. We're talking about the world, you guys. This is a very sophisticated adult podcast right now. We're talking about the world we live in and people and competitors. But we should probably talk a little bit about Gwent. And Damorquis, you wanted to talk about this specifically. You asked if you could bring up this topic, and I want to know how both of your takes on it. And this is about the latest development in Pro Ladder, hidden names and now hidden MMR. The original name of this podcast was actually Crouching Virus Hidden MMR. And I wanted to know what is the overall reactions? I've seen Reddit threads, people wanting to, right before this occurred, I believe there's a Reddit thread, a joint statement from Aretuza and Nova and Leviathan. I'm not sure if they were part of it, but it was about open data being requested. Yeah, it was about open data being requested, and it seems like the response to that is no. The response to that is that there is going to be less data to work with, no cosmetics, no names in Pro Rank, and no way to look up MMR on the website. This is a fairly new development, but not super new, but this is the first podcast in a while, so we can talk about that. Damorquis, lead off the conversation. Let's talk about kind of what are the repercussions of doing this kind of thing in the first place, kind of hiding all this information?
I mean, CDPR saw some problems, right, with the win trading, and they had like this situation where people would concede to streamers, and streamers couldn't do much about it, and so on and so on. So I don't know what the thought process was, but in the end, they came up with hiding data as a solution, which I found really bad of an idea, because it's like witnessing a car accident. Someone drove irresponsibly, and they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna ban cars, so there will be no more accidents." Like this like it's seeing a problem, but taking the totally wrong approach, in my opinion. And I think that like from what I saw and discussed, like a lot of the pro players share my opinion. It just has so many downsides that they weren't aware of. And I think at this point, people are obviously they are unhappy with the change, but they are even more unhappy with being super ignored, because there was like even this there was the statement of not issued meta snapshots and so on. And then like everyone kind of expected a response, and then it wasn't even mentioned in the dev stream, and there was like no response whatsoever. And like the some of the biggest content creators and competitive players in the scene got totally ignored, and the only statement that was like, we want more transparency in Gwent, so we are hiding more data. And it was like, what? That's my take.
Pumpkin, what do you think about this?
So I'm not a pro player like Damu here, so it doesn't affect me as much personally. I can take the flip side. Hiding, as far as hiding the names and the borders and avatars, I personally like it just because it means if I throw in some random tech, if I want to start playing Gigny, Scorch, whatever, my opponents aren't going to be playing around it as much, and that's nice. It pushes cards that you wouldn't normally play into viability. As far as so I don't mind them changing the avatar and borders. Now the part where they hide your MMR for each player, not sure that was necessary. I'd like to hear Damo's opinion about what they should have done. You said that there was the incorrect thing for them to do, just deleting everything in terms of information that's shared. What would you have done? I mean, ideally, in a perfect case, nobody win trades, but we don't live in that reality. So,
I think that I wasn't a big fan of the hiding name and hiding cosmetics at the start, but I can see now. It is in particular the situation with conceding and with sniping streamers and stuff, like this resolves the problem. So I'm not too much of a fan, because for me it ruins kind of a bit of the experience of competing against other people. But I'm also a person who plays on the ladder, plays more standard decks, and people who play more experimental or special decks, they benefit more from it. I can see it. But my biggest issue is with the hiding of the data, because if data is available to everyone, it's I don't see a downside of it, and you don't have to update it immediately, so you don't have the problems of people checking what someone's queuing. And there were a lot of these things happening back then when Game King was competing against ProNeo. But I think that in general, having data available about the MMRs and stuff would be really good. I would have kept it for sure, because that allows people to see, okay, this he played this deck and he has a really good MMR with it, or this is a good choice. You can adapt, you can learn from other players, you can also make better calls on what are good decisions. And also there's this whole kind of gameplay experience that is totally erased. When you look at the pro ladder, you see people compete, you see he's the only one who has a really good Skellige score, and for example Dujishin Miri, and it creates kind of also these personalities for certain decks or certain play styles, and this is all lost. So with taking away the data, this MMR display, you lose kind of a lot of the feedback, a lot of the in-game learning. You use a lot of the character building also in Gwent, and it's basically also benefiting players and teams and putting people who are playing solo at a disadvantage.
So yeah, I mean, it's the intangibles, right? It's the alternative, what I always wanted, and it's funny, of all the games to. Did someone say my name? Shinmeri's in the chat. I see you. Of all the games to offer this that I'm going to be referencing, I can't think of any other card games that offered this, but Artifact actually allowed you the chance to hide your name. And I liked that option to hide my name for the reasons of, if I'm streaming and people know my name, then people can come into my stream and figure out what I'm playing, see what's going on. And sometimes I would like the opportunity to hide that on my side. I always thought that would have been a nice option for the people that really wanted to hide things. I guess the idea is that if you give the option to everybody on pro rank, you'd probably still have to do that, because it would give you I guess the advantage of mystery, I suppose. I think that the big thing is, when people talk about meta, a lot of people understand meta as these are the best decks to play, or these are the best X to play in this game. But meta is always about the knowledge that exists outside of the game. So with stuff like MMR being shown and names and knowing what those players do, that's all actually meta knowledge that some players would have and some players well, in the case of MMR, just for the record, the MMR hiding on the website, I don't like it. I wish I could look at it for the same reasons the demo said. It's good to see who's good at Skellige. This person's the best Skellige player in the top 20. How did they get this score? I think that losing that is a big, I don't like that. Losing the names, I will agree with demo as well, that the experience of like knowing I'm queuing into and like, oh, it's Spiro. I'm just gonna say that because I see him in the chat as well. Oh, I'm queuing into Spiro. This will be fun. We got a little show match, everybody. But people on the stream don't know it's a show match until end of it. But I really do feel like I'm part of the 1% in this situation, because it's like it is something that really affects streamers, players at a high level. It's about less than 1% or less than at least, let's say 2%, 5% of the Gwent population doesn't really feel this at all. So you could even argue that this that the takes on this subject are diluted by a lot of people that actually don't even really feel it in the first place. Anyway, that's my take on it. As someone who likes to get to pro rank, and now I'm even less inclined to play it for some reason. There's something about not knowing who I'm playing against that I feel it. I want to know, but I also understand that by reducing meta knowledge, it's just better for the competitive landscape in general. But I also think it's just not 100% good. Like, it could have been done a different way. I'm not a person who'd make those decisions. Pumpkin, do you think that anything could have been done a different way, or do you think that right now it's probably the most fair it's ever been?
I mean, the whole idea about being able to hide your name is nice for streamers, but I think the whole reason why they got rid of avatars and names and stuff like that is because of the win trading, right? And this is their best solution to it. And I think it's a fine solution. If you were to allow people to not hide their names, right, it wouldn't really solve the problem. Mm-hmm. So once again, I think this portion of the fix is fine. The whole part on hiding MMRs on the website and everything, not a huge fan of that. In terms of tracking, maybe they could do something as simple as delaying all stats by 24 hours, make it much harder to track people.
Yeah.
I don't know if that solves everything, but
it would be cool if there was like, maybe they could just bring back the way Pro Masters rank was before, but instead of showing the MMR, they would show like maybe a symbol that represents that they're over a certain level of MMR, but not the exact number. So you just know that they're really good with a faction, but not exactly how good. Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to find like a medium here, because I honestly agree with a lot of the points, almost all of them. Like, I feel like the concerns are the results of the action. The action has merit. The results are unfortunate. Like, Damo, I don't know if you want to expand on this, but you said when we were talking about this a little bit earlier before the show, that the change actually made some players think like maybe they don't want to play anymore. Like, it actually affected their desire to compete. I personally think that's a little extreme, but could you elaborate on why this change would be enough to actually drive somebody away from competing in this game?
To be precise, I didn't mean this change in particular.
Oh, okay, my mistake.
There is, in general, the game developed a lot over the last months. I think that gameplay-wise, the game developed in a really great way. Like, a lot of you have the keywords, you have the effects and so on. The game is in a great state and it's developing in a good direction. But what we have been seeing, or what is like a shared sentiment, that CDPR moved a bit away from competitive players and moved a lot away from competitive players and to casual gaming. And why this is a good step, I guess, economically, because they had the problem that they focused too much on competitive parts in the first Gwent Master season. A lot of the competitive players feel left alone, and it's kind of weird when a lot of people in the competitive scene make a statement and they feel forced to do something and reduce their amount of content to be noticed. And then even their last resort of getting noticed is left unnoticed. This is like kind of a problem where I see a lot of people are very frustrated, and obviously some people have to make the economic equation if it's really worth it to compete for them under the Justice prize pool, but that's a completely different topic. But overall, I feel like I would really love if CDPR would involve competitive players more. I don't think that competitive players are the most important part of Gwent, not at all. But I think that it would help if they wouldn't only listen to what are the problems, but also they would dive into deeper with competitive players what could be solutions. Because right now CDPR is really good at recognizing problems, but they come up with solutions that are like not well thought through, or like that backfire super hard. And that's like, that could have been easily avoided, I think. I don't say that the solutions are easy, but actually involving people more and interacting more with people would give them a chance to feel acknowledged.
I'm gonna probably say that those things were probably, I don't know if, I mean, I a lot of the stuff you said is true, but I think saying that they weren't changes that were thought through, I just have to defend. I think I just have to think that they probably did think through some of these things. It's just like, I think for me is, I wonder what the turning point was for CDPR to make these choices. Like, why now and why not like earlier? Like, what was kind of the catalyst for all these changes to be made? Because I think that they did think about it a lot. I think that like, obviously there's cons to doing all sorts of stuff like that. Like, they developed the Gwent Masters website to track this stuff in the first place. Taking it away, that like bewilders me a little bit. Like, it seems like that was part of the appeal of the whole site. I loved going on that site. So it just seems like they must have thought about it a little bit. I just think that the results, and I think that the kind of response is what's resonating with the community as not being, I guess it's not being exactly what they want. But I want to lighten up the conversation a little bit. I feel like we've been talking about this for a bit. Pumpkin, I came into your stream shortly before this podcast, and I saw you were watching, I believe it was the Great Dandelion Show. I came into the stream just to say like a quick hi, and I ended up watching like the entirety of like that part of your stream where you were watching Great Dandelion Show. That, it's funny, I haven't watched that in a little bit. There is like a lot of do you watch it very often, and have you ever made it on the Great Dandelion Show? We're gonna switch gears here to something a bit more loose.
I show up every now and then. Yeah, my chat likes it when I watch it, so every time there's a new one, I typically watch it on stream at some point. It's a short, like 3-minute videos. Pretty fun. Every now and then there's some very funny clips.
Yeah, just the other side of Gwent. I feel like it's weird because when I stream Gwent, it feels serious. I try to keep it light, but Gwent is very, it's a more strategic card game, so sometimes lack of attention leads to those moments on stream that kind of gives that sort of content to the Great Dandelion Show. I just wanted to give a little shout out to that. I also just wanted to mention that I just picked any random moment to come into Pumpkin stream, and I just got stuck in it for 30 minutes. I mean, there's got to be a reason why this guy. How many hours a day do you stream, Pumpkin? How many hours is it these days?
I'd like to get back to doing like 6 to 7 hours. These past couple weeks, I've been slacking. My viewers know this. I've been doing like 4 or 5. But yeah, I'd like to get back to 6, 7.
Okay, so in Pumpkin's defense, I am like the same. I didn't even stream yesterday. Like, sometimes it's just, some weeks I get a little scared of the camera. I don't know. It just happens. Anyway, hopefully, I lost my train of thought. I just lost my train of thought. I think at this point, though, as we are kind of getting into the last third of the podcast, I want to open up. It's been a while since we've done the podcast. It's been, I believe, 5 or 6 full months since Shinmiri and Spiro joined me on Discord. This is the first one in a really long time, if you guys didn't really know how long it's been. And I wanted to throw out some questions to the chat. One of the reasons I was actually going to go into your chat, Pumpkin, is I was going to ask your chat, like, what would be like a really annoying question or like a really funny question to just ask Pumpkin over and over again. But I didn't do that. I'm going to give the chat a chance now to tag me. It's easier for me to see in the chat at McBearded. If you want to know, I basically already asked the first question. Damo, tell me. I'm going to ask a question to Damo right now. How confident were you when it came to Masters? You said you felt like you got a really good shot. Now that things have, I guess, paused, first of all, who knows if the bracket is locked? Like, I don't even know like what's going to change, but what gave you the most, what gave you the what made you think that you had a really good chance to win? Is there anything in particular?
I was prepared really well. Like I was able to play all the decks at the level where I thought I was really confident with them. And like obviously when you arrive at the event, you hear a bit of what the other players brought.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I've heard, we had a really good guess what other people would bring. And I also tagged in the right way. So I felt like I was favored in the quarters, and I would have been favored in the semis, or at least equal.
Did all the players share their lists with all the other players, like after it was postponed?
No. You just talk about the leaders, but the leaders already say a lot. So
yeah, usually, because it's funny, you guys talk so much before the competitions. I get nervous. Like I don't want to be in the room because I know things, obviously, because I see deck lists as well as being part of the broadcast team, because it helps us build narratives and obviously ask really great questions to the players. So we had seen the deck lists as well. Anyway, like for all of these, this one in particular, because there's so much money on the line, I think.
I mean, I was pretty confident because I'm like a merciless tryhard, you know. I just come there 10 days earlier and then I just play until I cannot improve because I am too stupid to improve. But I actually reached my maximum level of stupidity, so now I kind of cancelled my lack of talent compared to super genius players with my effort. And
you have a high ceiling of.
I cannot do more.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, like you have to just try your best, right? Let's talk to the chat here. Let's see. Let's see what people are asking. Bromek confirmed in the chat. Nilfgaard Asira Masquerade Ball. Should this be reworked? It's funny, I haven't seen this in a really long time, like weeks. But do you guys have an opinion on this combo? I think it's fine. I think it's Asira doing Nilfgaard things, and that's what Nilfgaard things, putting something back in the deck, fucking with decks. So, like, what do you guys think about this combo? Is it a problem? Pumpkin, you go first.
I don't think it's a problem.
Yeah, I didn't direct it. You don't think it's a problem?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a huge deal. I could see them changing it. I hope that if they were to change it, they wouldn't touch the Sire. I would rather them just Doom scenarios, simply because, well, we can't res them with Caretaker anymore. So the Doom would be the easiest way because there's no other way to resurrect it other than a Sire. Yeah, I mean, I can understand people's frustration. You're playing a high value card multiple times. Granted, you do have to draw the card on its own and then draw Sire and Mata. Granted, it happens fairly often. And Gimpy. Okay, I suppose you could Gimpy, but that's a lot more work than the Sire Mata.
But in real, you can also run Caretaker in your deck.
Yeah.
What?
Just run Caretaker.
You can purify all the poisons away, man.
Oh, I thought you were gonna purify the Doom.
No.
I mean, what if they just lock your Caretaker?
No, I was rather joking, but I can also see why someone could get frustrated playing against this. It if you face it on the wrong coin, it takes a bit of experience to do the right things. Yeah.
Right. So like Northern Realms, back with double scenario with Northern Realms and Caretaker, if you lost coin and they drew it in their opening hand, it felt really, really bad. And you could apply that to Nilfgaard as well. So I could understand the frustration.
Well, it's double scenario was something that, oh man, when they made that change, I had to contain myself. I really wanted to just like yell at everybody I ever played against that played that against me, win or lose. It's just something about it. Like something about the reusing of the scenarios just felt. I think it's just to be strong in this game, when a game that has so much inevitability, you low fail rate of decks, you get to see most of your cards. When you play against somebody who is playing Caretaker Siege or Caretaker whatever, usually Caretaker Siege, it just felt like I know this is how I have to exploit this card. I need to play this card not once, not twice, maybe. Like the people that were playing Renew. Again, this is not the people that were actually using their deck provisions to put Caretaker and Renew and Scenario in to play this 3 scenarios, one for each round. you don't lose to all of them, but when you do, you're just so mad. It's like, it's counterable. You could just nuke it out of the graveyard. I think it was the amount of people that had no respect. And I don't know. It felt like Imlerith Sabbath all over again. Like I could build the counter in, I could draw that counter, I could make this person forfeit right now in round 1, or I could lose. And that just honestly is where that was starting to feel with me. But obviously not.
One of the things that's frustrating about it is a lot of the times in Gwent, you know that they're playing certain cards. So you push rounds, you bleed rounds to get out certain cards so that you don't have to deal with them later. This especially applies to cards like Oak or Water in round 1 against Squirtle. You can't really do that against double Siege or double Nilfgaard scenario just because they do actually want to play it twice. CDPR actually nerfed Renew and Blue Dream because, quote unquote, they don't want finishers being played twice. And yet double scenario is a thing. Seems kind of weird because it's one of the best, if not the best, finishers in the game, or at least in terms of pushing out points. So I would not be surprised whatsoever if they made scenarios doomed just for the Asire combo.
I feel like scenarios were kind of replacing Portal strength, but making it a bit more varied. Like you'd play Portal, you'd get your 4P cards out, you'd play 2 engines at the same time back when engines were 4P, and then you would be able to kind of get ahead of your opponent because they could only answer maybe one thing at a time. But the scenarios don't require a deck state. They don't like you obviously require triggers, but you could just build your whole deck around that. And it was like basically people were playing 3 Portals a game. Like that wasn't even possible when Portal was good because eventually you'd run out of cards for it to pull, or it would be just way too expensive or way too intensive on deck building you have to guarantee 2 Portals to be good. That was a lot harder than guaranteeing 1 Portal to be good. So we went from a Portal meta to a much nerfed Portal meta back into something that I felt was even more oppressive when you tried to abuse it. But the idea of scenarios, I like them. I think that the cards themselves are really cool. I think that it changes deck building, it changes play style, play patterns. It's really too bad they had all this stuff in the game that was just, this good card, we can make it really, really good. I said it twice there.
Do we get more scenarios in the future?
I would like to see like smaller scenarios, like
mini scenarios.
Well,
yep. I would love mini scenarios.
Look at Feign Death and what it did for Isengrim and Yavin. So it creates all the tokens, right? It doesn't actually play plays Waylay, but it mostly deals with the tokens. And then look at Death Mold. Poor Death Mold. Isengrim's like, yo, look at all this power I have. I'm the same provisions, I'm the same strength, but I've got this extra bonus. I buff. Oh, no, it's not the same strength, is it? Is it not? Anyway, he buffs all the elves on the board, and then he has this extra thing that he does. Plus, he has a scenario that creates all these elf tokens. Imagine if Death Mold had, let's say, this is a shout out to Reddit's, one of the early Reddit scenarios that I saw before card creation on that site became rampant and too much. But it was like the Aretusa Academy, create a bunch of small token mages, and now you have cards that care about mages actually having a little bit more to do. But if you're creating tokens instead of actual full cards, maybe you can make them cost less because they have less of an ongoing impact. It's like maybe having an extra stratagem or something like that. Something that could be a little bit smaller. But anyway, I would like to see more scenarios for sure. Short answer. In general, I would hope to think that most people thought that scenarios were a cool card type in general.
I just hope they're not really big scenarios. I agree. I think small mini scenarios would be pretty cool.
Yeah, same. I think that scenarios without engines would be really nice. Because engines and scenario, they just snowball too hard, but just small scenarios that have like a limited ceiling, they would be really fun. And also it allows you to play kind of your deck in a lore way. You like look at all these elves, I play Isengrim and stuff like this. And also with the mages, so it's kind of brings more feeling to the game. I like.
It also makes stuff like mages not competitive, and then you have a scenario that supports mages, and that would make mages competitive, but it wouldn't drastically impact the balance of Northern Realms in general. You'd have to focus your deck around it, which would take some stuff away. Maybe you can't run Falibor or whatever. So I think that stuff like that, it just gives more deck building options and kind of. I feel like when you make a scenario for a certain card type, you're giving that archetype a real chance. Like Skellige only got the scenario and cards that care about scenario, and that deck was really popular in the first month of Iron Judgment. Druid Skellige like had a lot of power. It was stronger than just like, let's just try this before people figure it out. Like I feel like it had a lot of legs for that whole month. So I don't know. I think that they can really build around that personally. Give me your takes on bribery, gentlemen. It's probably one of the longest talked about things. Pumpkin wants to just get out of the room right now. I feel like the more Gwent a person plays, the more salts they have.
Yeah, I talked about it earlier today in my
today?
stream. I had a game where I rolled 2 Vernocials in a row and it's just game over. And then I'll roll like 2 bronzes the next game. The proposed solution that I have is make it only hit gold units and then bring the provision cost up. Because the really unfun thing about bribery is it either feels like a high roll or a low roll. And that's always going to be felt by both players, right? One's going to feel high, one's going to feel low roll. Whereas if you make it like, I don't know, 10p, 11p, it just feels proper. Like it doesn't feel like your opponent's stealing the game away because they got lucky.
I can see that. I would agree with. I think if they change bribery, I would like to see some other tactics, because right now the tactics slots are a bit tight with the tactics that you would like to play. So I would like to see either change of the card, or like some bribery could be something spy related. I am really bad of a card inventor, but there is a lot of things in Nilfgaard that you can do. But I would be also okay with the suggestion that Pumpkin gave. And if they change it, I want more tactics, because then I want some alternatives for Nilfgaard tactics deck.
Maybe we get Muzzle back.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Just taking that away from Nilfgaard like that. And it's funny, that seemed to be the thing that removed it from the game, like for sure. I feel like I saw Muzzle in other decks before that change, and then it just disappeared completely. I don't know. But yeah, as far as bribery is concerned, cards like the Penitent make me hopeful that they're going to do, Penitent and Portal are one of the few cards that we've seen provision-based tutoring. And I think that if you wanted to make bribery feel less of a high or a low roll, like look at Gold's in like the 6 or 7 slot. Like they kind of hold weird spots. Like some decks omit this spot altogether. There's not a lot of factions that have like really strong 6s that aren't like very situational. I think Peter Sargwenlov might be one of the best ones, but it's kind of weird. You look at Skellige's options in 6 and 7, and they're really weird. And I feel like if you kind of looked at like 6 to 8, like you look at how they moved like Regis and Geralt and Cleaver from 9 to 10, they kind of made that dividing line towards like premium removal between 9 and 10, and 9 being more like between 6 and 9 being like really strong utility golds that would help you earlier in a round rather than later. I feel like if you put a provision range on bribery, it might make it a bit more fair. You might be able to hit some good stuff. The tactics might still matter. Assimilate might still matter, but it makes it just like a better Imperial diplomacy. Like it can just reach a little higher, but not all the way to the oak.
Would you make it so that it can just any card from their faction, or would it still be restricted to their deck? Because if it's restricted to their deck, as you just mentioned, 6s and 7s a lot of times aren't being run. So a lot of the time you'll play it and you'll just see bronzes.
That's a really good point.
Right? And
I actually forgot.
Right, so it would just be a diplomacy for their bronzes a lot of the times. So it would have to get brought down to like 6p.
Yeah.
And it would just be a diplomacy. So doing the range thing, I don't think works, just because it increases your chances of hitting bronzes too, unless your range is super high, in which case it's just the same thing.
Also, if you're like a more casual player, and you just want to play some fun high-rolly decks, and you just put bribery in the deck, and then you're like, okay, this gives me between 6 and 10 provisions. I have no idea what costs so much,
That's a really good point. Yeah, it would actually make it very confusing for a new player to be like, I don't know what this means necessarily. I don't have control over it. It's something my opponent has control over. Good point. Yeah, it would be more about the randomness of it, I guess. But yeah, even then. It's because, it's the absence of silver cards. What is this? It's epic cards, I guess, but not even epic cards, because there's mid-range legendaries too.
Trust me, it's already hard enough to put enough categories in your Dana deck. You miscalculate it all the time.
For sure. We talked a lot about that. I just want to check the chat if there are any more questions for peeps. McBeard Magpie, what's up, Magpie? Challenger 5 winner wants to know when I will get a haircut. That's a weird question because I don't have any. And question to Pumpkin here. Oh, I already people asked this last time you were on. You're never gonna play Witcher 3. If the question about Witcher 3 is always, it's me, right? You're not gonna play it, right?
I'm not a huge fan of single player games, so maybe Cyberpunk multiplayer. I'll play that. That'll be fun.
Resident Evil 3 multiplayer though. Maybe we could play that. That's gonna be good, I think.
We'll see.
Here's one from Repik. This is the event coordinator that I'm sure both of you have met. He's everybody who goes to CDPR meets Repik. Shout out to Repik. Has a question for Damo. Quote, I still have the bottle of whiskey he bought after Challenger 4. We will drink it after the Gwent Masters finals. Do you still have... I'm assuming that Repik is quoting you. Are you have the whiskey and you told him that you would drink it? I'm not sure what the question is here.
So
it's a message. So it's
like
a message.
when I arrived at Gwent Challenger 4, I was about to retire and debated everyone. So I had a bottle of whiskey that I gifted to the guys from CDPR, and they still have it. So I'm really looking forward to drink up when all is done.
I'm not a whiskey drinker, but I would drink some of that Gwent Masters whiskey. It tastes like Gwent.
Really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be... we have one more question here. When it happens, how it happens, whatever form it takes, it's been forever, right? It's just, Gwent Masters was like the promise of... it was the big event. I know, like, I've seen all the events. I know how big they can get or how small they can get. Gwent Masters 1 did have, like, people flown out for its big event. Gwent Challenger 1. People came out to that event, and there was an audience, and that's the only event that's actually had an audience as far as, like, that I could, like, literally see from where I'm casting. So the idea, when it was all proposed and Gwent was, like, super big, like Gwent Challenger 1, between 1 and 2, we're going to the castle to play, like, that kind of stuff. The idea of Gwent Masters seemed like this huge, it was like, oh, it's going to be a huge stadium. It's just going to be so big. And now it's just with the virus, it feels like the world is shrinking. It feels like the world is shrinking sometimes. So I really just can't wait to be in that moment to see who gets that Gwent Masters. And if my divination is right, it might be you, Damo. I did actually end up picking you. I just kind of went through the matchups and I was just clicking. I'm like, yeah, that seems about right. And then I had you against Colemine, and that was a tough decision.
I'll do my best. But yeah, I have no doubt that whenever Gwent Masters comes, it will be a great event. And it's going to be the event that we all are hoping for.
Right on,
you
my
should
friends.
just rent a boat and just play it on a boat.
Play it on a boat. Yeah. Because, the virus can't swim. So...
Exactly.
I mean, I think anybody who's following the news knows that cruise ships are the safest place to be. No issues involving cruise ships at all.
Well, it's really cheap though. Like you can get tickets for cruise ships, so we should schedule that. Gwent cruise ship for Masters.
Oh man, yeah, making Masters on a ship and calling it the Flying Redanian Special. Exactly, Artelan Elusive. It's that easy, right? It's that easy.
That would be pretty cool. Masters on the Flying Redanian.
Masters, I always thought that they could have done something. What was Challenger 5? I loved it, but it was the promised Monsters Challenger, right? It was like, what dank, disturbing location will they pick for this? And then it ended up being the studio, and just with Arid in there. But I thought that they had a lot of options to do stuff. I thought they had a lot of options.
We could do it on the moon. No virus up there.
Exactly. Nothing could survive up there. All right, my friends. Interesting situation because of the world we're living in. I actually have to get offline because my wife, who is a teacher, actually has to stream her class shortly from now. So this is going to be a tight hour podcast, as I'm expecting an Italian lesson to begin in this same studio. Obviously, I'm renting out space in the Commander Torn studio for the Italian community here in Ontario. And parting shots, my friends. What are you guys up to these days? I mean, obviously, there's a lot of games to play. Me personally, I'm playing Ori and the Will of the Wisps. I've been playing Path of Exile. Like I've gotten, unfortunately, the hooks are in me deep for that game. Legends of Runeterra didn't stick for me, but I know a lot of people are still playing it off and on. I still play it here and there, but I mean, like stream wise. But now that the pressure of the Gwent Masters are off, Damo, what are you playing when you're not playing Gwent? Gotcha.
You're muted.
You're muted, my friend.
Sorry. I played a bit of Ori and the Wisps too. It's a really fun game.
It's good.
And apart from that, I play Civ with the guys. There are still Gwent qualifiers this weekend, so I'm gonna play that. But we play Civilization 5.
Okay.
With a lot of people. So if any of you wants to play a game of Civ 5, just hit me up. We have a lot of fun. And yeah, apart from that, but I'm actually a bit tired of playing and sitting in front of our computers these days. It's not the best time to have that attitude, but I'm using it to finally catch up on reading some books that I always wanted to read, and I never had the time. And now that kind of life is on a break.
Yeah.
Because there's not much to do for me at the moment. I try to use the time to read, and yeah.
I've been getting back into graphic novels myself. I've been trying to read a few more of those. And that's kind of where my reading begins. Pumpkin, what about you?
I haven't played Will-O-Wisp. I've been playing Gwent. Off stream, I play. I don't know, Runeterra. I'm hoping they push out an expansion soon.
Yeah, they just changed.
I play like a game or two a day. It's just I don't know. And then I'll play some Overwatch for fun.
Some Overwatch, yeah. Hearthstone's adding a new class. I don't really want to like.
I played Battlegrounds at Hearthstone. That's fun.
Yeah, I mean that's something that I've just never really. I played it on my phone a couple times. It seems fun. Anyway, there's lots of stuff to check out these days. Obviously, Resident Evil 3 is coming out soon. I'm going to be playing that a lot, I think. Yeah, Cyberpunk. Once upon a time. Hopefully, game development isn't slowed down too much. It seems like a lot of people are adjusting. I think that in the digital space, it's really interesting. I worked in advertising for a long time, and a lot of people were already in that. This is like 4 or 5 years ago at this point. One of my clients, one of the biggest telecommunications companies in Canada, they were already working towards like a no office, no desk situation where like you bring your laptop in and you work in the space that you want. It's not perfect. Obviously, people with seniority kind of will take spots that they want anyway. But the idea that we were already kind of maybe 5 years ago moving towards a model that working from home could be a big thing. But now it's, the world is just forced into it. I just think that from a global standpoint, it's a topic that I feel like I could talk about endlessly and listen to endlessly because we're all in it, right? How could it not be interesting? I don't know.
Yeah.
Close it on that.
Makes sense.
Note.
For me, the most interesting thing about the crisis is that you see, like the people who have like the highest value jobs right now are not the people who get the most money usually, and that is like a very interesting thing. I mean, it happens also without a crisis, but it's kind of a nice time to appreciate all the people who still have to work.
Yeah, really just think about all the people you interact with. If you need to interact with anybody, the people that farm your food, deliver your food, if you are doing that, people who manage your groceries, people that work in convenience stores and stuff like that, customer service, if your internet's not working, your phone's not working, like the infrastructure of the world right now is in a really weird spot, shipping, delivering, like there's a lot to think about. So just think about, coming from a content creator, streamer, person in a little box on your screen point of view, there are a lot of real human beings involved in all of everything that we get, our electricity, everything. So just remember the human nature.
You have to imagine how hard it is for most of the people who are not used to staying home. I mean, we are in esports. We should be dealing with that without any problems, and we are here suffering. But but they have to deal with it right now. That must be rough.
It's true. Deal with it, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, as a streamer, it's as Pumpkin said, it's just we just get in front of the camera and that's that. But it's weird because when we finally do have to go out and get groceries, I just hope that the world's still there because we stocked up a while ago.
How much toilet paper do you get?
Oh my god, that shit is so infuriating. I want to believe that it was just like a couple people that did that and a lot of photos.
No,
but it's not.
Everywhere.
It's not. It's everywhere. There's just. It's a sad. I don't even know anymore. Sometimes I think that this might be good for us being inside. Not the sickness part, no, but somehow being inside, being the world being forced to change and think about our position in the world. I think it's interesting. Like even Conan O'Brien said, I think it was today, he said he's going to do his show from his iPhone and Skype, and he's going to get his staff to help edit it. I'm like, wow, like, yeah, streaming is pretty cool, isn't it? Like, we can make this work. We can make this happen. We've been doing this the whole time. You don't need a crystal clear mic. You don't need great lighting. You don't need makeup, greasy forehead over here. You know, somehow we are still able to entertain people. So I'm actually really interested to see how, like, the bigger players end up doing, or the bigger shows end up transitioning to more of a, I don't know, a real space like our basements right now, or our rooms, wherever we are. Parting shots, my friend. SirPumpkn, where can people find you every day doing your live business with Gwent and other games as you're streaming on Twitch, making your stuff on YouTube?
Twitch.tv/SirPumpkn. No I in pumpkin. I don't do much YouTube anymore. Yeah.
YouTube's good. You should. I mean, it's I don't know. You get it. It's okay. I like YouTube personally, but Damo, what about you? What are you up to these days?
You can find me either on Twitter under Damorquis, or at your local supermarket parking lot selling toilet paper.
Only if it's in Germany, I suppose. As for me, you can find me right here at McBearded. You're watching us on Twitch right now. And thank you so much for watching us on the channel. Follow me at McBeardCH on Twitter. We will be doing more shows. This is not a one-off. I am back doing weekly shows. I've got some guests lined up for various weeks. This is just the first of many. Hopefully going into a continuing Gwent season. We obviously have a lot to see how it unfolds. We have Gwent information, leaks that didn't happen from Masters, and with kind of business paused right now, it's interesting to see when that information or how that information is going to be coming out. But we'll be on top of it. Join us next time. It won't be a Thursday, I don't think, because of the aforementioned Italian teaching stream that occurs here on Thursday. I might just give up the bandwidth and just move to Wednesdays. But you can follow me on Twitter. I'll let you guys know. And you can find this right here on YouTube. If you're watching it on YouTube right now at youtube.com/c/McBeard. Hit a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. Lots of ways to let me know. Leave a comment. And Damorquis, Pumpkin, thanks so much for coming on the show. It was great to talk to you and great to have you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
And that'll be it for me. Thanks so much to the chat. Thanks to all the subs and all the people that cheered and all the people in the chat. I usually like to talk to you guys a little bit more, but of course, as a podcast, I got to focus on my guests. But that'll be it for me. Thanks so much for joining us today. Until next time, my friends, best of luck on the path.
You're learning to play a few rounds of Gwent. That ought to set me straight.